Welcome to our deep dive. This one, well, it feels like something straight out of the meme-verse, but it's making real headlines.
Yeah, definitely grabbing a lot of attention.
We're talking about President-elect Trump's new project, this whole Department of Government Efficiency, D.O.G.E.
Catchy, that's for sure. Signals are not afraid to, shake things up a bit.
You bet.
No
And you
doubt.
sent over some really interesting articles and research. So today we're going to dig into D.O.G.E., what it is, who's running the show, what they're hoping to pull off. Oh, and those potential roadblocks. And got to unpack that whole meme connection, right?
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
All right, first things first. What exactly is D.O.G.E.? Sounds all official and government nay, but
Not quite. It's actually a privately run thing, advising the White House.
so not a traditional agency.
Nope. And that structure itself is pretty unusual. Could be they're trying to sidestep some of that, typical government red tape.
Makes sense. And to lead this thing, Trump's picked, well, two guys known for doing things their own way. Elon Musk, the Tesla and SpaceX guy. And Vivek Ramaswamy, the biotech entrepreneur. What do you make of those choices?
Interesting picks, both of them. Total outsiders to government. Their whole careers have been about disrupting things, challenging the norm.
Right. And your research even pointed out Trump's been choosing others with that same kind of reputation for key positions. Like, what about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health and Human Services?
Yeah, there's a pattern there. Seems like he's surrounding himself with people who, well, they're more likely to push for big changes, even if it ruffles some feathers.
Shake things up a bit.
Exactly.
But could that lack of government experience be a problem, too? I mean, maybe they don't fully get how complex the system is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Everything's got a learning curve, right? One of the articles you sent, it asked if maybe they're underestimating how much resistance they'll get from the, career government folks.
The ones used to doing things a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they're coming in with that whole Silicon Valley mindset, innovation, disruption. But government, well, it doesn't always move that fast.
True. There's all those legal and procedural hurdles. And, lots of people involved, different opinions. Not everyone's going to love their vision.
Speaking of legal hurdles, what about those potential conflicts of interest Musk and Ramaswamy might face? Because of all their businesses, I mean.
Yes. Big point in a lot of your sources. We've got that federal conflict of interest law, right? Meant to stop government employees from using their position for personal gain.
But D.O.G.E. isn't technically a government agency. So do those rules even apply to these guys?
That's what the legal experts are debating right now. Might not apply in the, strictest sense. But it's a gray area for sure. Because even if they're not officially government employees, they're going to be right there in the mix, close to the power and decision-making.
So how could that affect Musk? Specifically, I mean.
Well, think about it. A bunch of his companies, Tesla, SpaceX, they've got big government contracts, rely on subsidies and stuff. So anything he suggests through D.O.G.E., even indirectly, could help his own businesses.
Tricky situation. Makes you wonder if he's really putting public first or his own companies.
Exactly. And that's where transparency is going to be super important. The more open they are about these potential conflicts, the better. Less chance those conflicts will undermine their work.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about how D.O.G.E. is set up, who's in charge, some of those legal worries. Now, the big question, what are they actually trying to do?
On paper, it's all about making government run better, cutting waste, saving taxpayer money. But the how is still a bit of a mystery.
In one of your sources, Ramaswamy made a pretty bold statement. Talked about having the power to fire a ton of government employees. Like, a lot.
Oh, yeah. He claimed the president could fire up to 75% of the federal workforce. Yeah, big claim. And the legal folks are split on if that's even possible.
I can only imagine what that statement did to the morale over at the various agencies. What impact do you think that kind of talk has?
Well, it definitely sends a signal, right? Like, we're not afraid to make big, drastic changes. But it also makes people worry about disruptions to important services, people losing their jobs.
So the goal's efficiency, but we don't really know how they'll do it or what the fallout might be.
Pretty much. And this is where it gets even more interesting, because this is where the whole meme culture and cryptocurrency thing comes in.
Okay, got to unpack that. We know the name D.O.G.E. is a nod to Dogecoin, the cryptocurrency. But what's the bigger meaning there?
Well, remember how we said Musk and Ramaswamy are outsiders, disruptors, picking a name tied to a, meme-based cryptocurrency. It's like they're saying, we don't play by the usual government rules.
Trying to reach a different audience, maybe. One that's more into internet culture than like political speeches.
Exactly. And that's where this whole D.O.G.E community meme project comes in. They want to use memes in online communities to get people talking about government spending.
I gotta be honest, I'm a little skeptical. Can memes really make a difference with something this complex?
It's a bold move, that's for sure. Who knows? Maybe they'll find a way to make it work. Break down these complicated topics, make them easier to understand. It's different, that's for sure.
Definitely something we need to explore more. In part 2, we'll dig deeper into that D.O.G.E community meme project, see what they're up to. We'll also look closer at how D.O.G.E might impact government agencies and the people working there.
Lots more to uncover. And it's already got people talking. This whole thing, it's fascinating. Back for more on D.O.G.E.
It's wild how much there is to this whole thing. Last time, we were talking about disruption, right? In one article, it really jumped out at me. Ramaswamy saying the president could just fire a ton of government workers.
Yeah, that was quite a statement. He claimed the president could fire, get this, up to 75% of federal employees.
Seriously, 75%.
Yeah. Legal experts are going back and forth on if that's even, like, legal.
Okay, so break it down for our listeners. What's the argument on each side?
Well, some folks, they say the president has a lot of power, especially when it comes to managing those federal employees. They're pointing to historical stuff, legal opinions, that kind of thing.
And the folks against it?
They say that kind of move, it would get challenged in court big time. Things like civil service protections, union contracts, wrongful termination lawsuits, it'd be a mess.
So even if Ramaswamy thinks it's possible, there'd be a lot of pushback.
Oh, absolutely. And I got to remember, even if it is legal, doesn't mean it's a good idea politically, right? Congress, the employees, the public, they could all go ballistic.
Seems like D.O.G.E is walking a tightrope here. Want to make big changes, but got to stay within the law and not, totally freak everyone out.
That's it, exactly. A delicate balance. And speaking of balancing acts, one of the weirdest things about this whole D.O.G.E story is how they're trying to mix government and, well, internet culture.
The D.O.G.E community meme project, using memes and crypto to get people talking about government efficiency.
Yep, that's the one.
It's
different. Got a lot of people curious and probably a lot scratching their heads.
I was pretty skeptical, gotta admit. Memes for explaining stuff like government spending, it just seemed too, I don't know, simple.
Yeah, that's the challenge they've given themselves. Make these dry topics fun and easy to understand for, regular folks.
So how are they actually doing that? What kind of memes are we talking about?
One article, it talked about a meme they made. Compared the federal budget to a giant pizza, each slice a different agency.
Okay, I can see how that would help. Visuals are good.
Mm-hmm.
But memes, they're usually joking, satirical. Doesn't that make light of serious stuff?
That's a good point. Got to be careful with that. But humor, it can be a powerful tool, right? If they can make it funny and informative, they might reach way more people than the usual government stuff.
So it's a gamble, but could pay off. What about the cryptocurrency part? How does that fit in?
Well, they're not just using the name, right? They're looking at blockchain technology to make government spending more transparent.
Some listeners might not know what that is. Can you give us the blockchain 101?
Think of it like a digital ledger, keeps track of every transaction, totally secure and open, like a public record that you can't mess with.
Gotcha. So how would that work with government spending?
Imagine every dollar the government spends tracked on this blockchain. Anyone could see where the money's going, could cut down on corruption, make the government more accountable to, us taxpayers.
That's pretty cool, but can they actually do that on a big scale, I mean?
It would be a huge project, that's for sure. But not impossible. Some countries are already trying it out.
Seems like D.O.G.E is full of these big, ambitious ideas, firing tons of employees, blockchain. But what about the agencies themselves? How will this all affect them?
Yeah, can't forget about the people actually doing the work, right?
Right. So what might happen in those agencies as D.O.G.E starts, making moves?
Well, budget cuts are probably coming.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board, D.O.G.E might decide some programs or departments aren't efficient, don't need as much money.
And for the people working there?
Layoffs, maybe, furloughs, benefits getting cut. A lot of uncertainty, people getting nervous, could really hurt morale.
It's like one thing leads to another. Changes at the top can have huge consequences for everyone else.
Exactly. And those government agencies, they do important stuff for millions of people. Any disruptions, any cuts, it's going to affect everyday folks.
Healthcare, education, the environment, things people depend on.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that's why government reform, it's got to be done carefully. It can't just go slashing and burning without thinking about the consequences. It's about finding that balance, saving money, but keeping those essential services running.
One area where that balance is super important, it's antitrust enforcement. You included some articles about how Biden handled that, and it sounds like things could be completely different under Trump with D.O.G.E calling the shots.
Yeah, the Biden administration, they were pretty tough on antitrust, especially with the big tech companies, Amazon, Meta. They saw those mergers as a bad thing, stifling competition.
But Trump, he's been more friendly to big business, right? And not so worried about those mergers.
Right. So under Trump, we might see him ease up on antitrust. Could lead to a ton of mergers and acquisitions, could reshape whole industries.
What about those antitrust cases already happening against Amazon and Meta? Could those just get dropped?
It's possible. Depends who Trump puts in charge at the Justice Department and the FTC. If they're pro-business, those cases could go nowhere.
Wow. So much at stake here. Antitrust, the agencies, people's jobs. D.O.G.E could change everything. It's a lot to take in.
It is, and we're not even done yet. In part 3, we'll step back, try to make sense of it all. What does D.O.G.E really mean in the long run? Is it a chance to make things better, or is it something else entirely?
Back for the final part of our D.O.G.E deep dive. We've looked at this thing from all sides, and honestly, I'm more confused now than when we started.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. So much to unpack. Personalities, legal stuff, the agencies, memes, crypto.
I keep coming back to one big question. Is D.O.G.E a good thing, or should we be worried?
Tough one. No easy answer. The articles you sent, they show both sides. The good and the maybe not so good.
Right. Like they could make government more efficient, less wasteful, streamline things, cut spending, use that blockchain for transparency.
And who wouldn't want that? Efficient government, taxes used wisely, more accountability. Sounds great.
Totally. But then there's that potential for, like, chaos. Messing with people's jobs, disrupting services, maybe even giving too much power to certain companies.
Plus, those conflict of interest worries, especially with Musk. His companies and the government, they're already so connected. Makes you wonder who's really benefiting from all this efficiency.
Right, right. It's not just about doing things faster or cheaper. It's got to be about what's good for everyone, not just a few people.
It always comes back to power, doesn't it? Who has it, who wants it, who might lose it.
That's a good way to put it. And that's something to think about, not just with D.O.G.E, but with everything, really.
Absolutely. New ideas, big promises, they're exciting, but gotta think critically too. Ask the tough questions. What are the downsides?
So for our listeners, as this D.O.G.E thing plays out, what's the most important thing to remember?
Stay informed. Hear all sides of the story. Don't just take things at face value. Dig a little deeper, ask questions, make up your own mind.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, this isn't just some abstract idea. These changes, they affect real people, real communities. We got to be part of this conversation, hold our leaders accountable, make our voices heard.
Well said. This is a story that's just getting started, and we're all part of it, whether we like it or not.
That's it for our deep dive on D.O.G.E. Thanks for joining us. We'll keep you updated as this story develops.